All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into a career as a plastering supervisor.
Okay.
And I know that might sound really specific, but that's what we do here, right? We take these deep dives into things that you're interested in,
Yeah,
and this is something that you're clearly interested in. So, hopefully we can give you some good info today.
absolutely.
I am joined today by our expert,
Real
and
good to be here.
we're excited to dive into this. So I was looking at this RoleCatcher guide on becoming a plastering supervisor, and one of the things that really jumped out at me was just how much more there is to this job than meets the eye, right? Like, I think a lot of people hear plastering supervisor and they think, okay, someone who's really good at plastering.
Right.
But it seems like it's a lot more than that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's much more than just, having the hands-on skills,
Fair.
which are incredibly important, obviously. But as you move into these supervisory roles, you're really talking about project management,
Yeah.
leadership,
Yeah.
having to adapt to new technologies.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I thought was really interesting. The guide mentioned plastering supervisors needing to stay updated on technology advances. And I thought, technology advances? In plastering? Like,
Right.
what are we talking about here? Are we talking about robot plasterers now?
Not quite yet. Although it is a really interesting question and honestly one that's being debated across a lot of trades right now.
Yeah.
But no, we're not looking at robots taking over the plastering world. At least not.
Okay, good to know. But if it's not robots, then what kind of technology are we talking about? What's changing in the world of plastering?
Well, the guide points to a few things. One is new plastering materials, for example.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of innovation in that area. Things like lightweight gypsum-based compounds that are really revolutionizing application techniques.
Okay, so it's getting really specific. Lightweight gypsum. I admit I'm not that familiar with all the different types of plaster. I just
Um,
know what I see when I go to the hardware store.
Sure. Well, these new materials are a game changer.
Yeah.
They're less physically demanding to work with, they dry faster, and they even open up new design possibilities.
Yeah.
And for a plastering supervisor, understanding those materials, how to use them effectively, that's going to be crucial.
So it's not just about knowing how to plaster anymore. It's about understanding the science behind it,
Exactly.
the innovations driving the industry forward.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it's not just the materials themselves. The guide also talks about 3D modeling software being used more and more in the planning stages.
Yeah.
That allows for incredible precision, and it helps everyone visualize the project before any actual plastering begins.
Oh, that's so interesting. We actually just had our kitchen remodeled, and I was blown away by how much our contractor was using his tablet for everything,
Yeah.
like for scheduling, for ordering supplies. He even showed us 3D models of what things would look like.
Exactly. Technology is really streamlining so many aspects of construction, and the plastering supervisor needs to be fluent in those systems.
Yeah.
They're the ones managing the crews, the timelines, the budgets. They need to be able to navigate those tech tools to be effective leaders.
So you've got all this tech, you've got managing people, managing projects. It's
Right.
like, wow, this is a lot to juggle. And it kind of makes me wonder about the lifestyle, you know? Like,
Yeah.
is this a career where you can have decent work-life balance? Is there a lot of potential to move up the ladder if you're ambitious? What does that look like?
Those are really important questions,
Yeah.
and it's something that the RoleCatcher Guide actually addresses directly. They have a whole section on the pros and cons of the career,
Oh, yeah.
which I found really helpful.
What were some of the things that stuck out to you?
Well, one of the things that they highlighted as a major pro was job security,
Oh, yeah.
which, let's face it,
Big one these days.
huge these days, right?
Yeah.
And, the construction industry in general tends to be a little bit more resilient to economic downturns than some other fields.
That's a good point. People always need buildings,
Exactly.
and those buildings need to be plastered.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And on the flip side, they talk about the physical demands of the job and the potential for, some on-the-job stress. I would imagine those are pretty real factors in construction.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a physically demanding job.
Right,
It can be stressful, managing projects and deadlines and crews.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It can be tough.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone. But here's the thing about those challenges.
What's that?
They can also be incredible opportunities for growth. So, for example, think about the physical demands. The more you understand your body, the more you learn how to work efficiently and safely. Those are valuable skills.
Mm-hmm.
And as you gain experience, you can often specialize in certain types of plastering,
Oh, interesting.
which can make you even more in demand.
Okay, so you become kind of a specialist.
Exactly. And in terms of stress management, well, that's a muscle you develop in any kind of supervisory role. Learning how to handle pressure, how to delegate effectively. Those are transferable skills that can serve you well no matter where your career takes you.
That's a really good point. So it sounds like there's potential to move up in this field even if you're not necessarily looking to start your own business one day.
Absolutely. There's a lot of room for growth. And this is where I thought the RoleCatcher guide was really helpful. They lay out the potential career trajectory really clearly.
Hmm.
You might start as an entry-level plasterer, work your way up to plaster, then maybe a plastering foreman, and eventually a plastering supervisor.
So each step up is like more responsibility, but also more expertise.
Exactly.
Ah.
And usually more earning potential, too.
Which is always nice.
Always a good thing.
So for those listening who are maybe thinking, okay, this sounds pretty good. How do I actually get my foot in the door? I want to shift gears a bit and talk about the actual job search process.
Yeah.
Because RoleCatcher has some pretty cool resources for that. Did you get a chance to look at those at all?
I did. I was really impressed by their interview prep tools.
Me too. Okay, so they have this database of like 120,000 potential interview questions.
It's incredible.
I know. It's like, how could you possibly need more than this?
Right.
But then on top of that, they have this AI-powered feedback feature, which I think is really cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Especially for folks who maybe haven't done a ton of formal job interviews. It helps you refine your answers and make sure you're presenting yourself in the best possible light.
It's like having a career coach in your pocket.
Exactly. And, I think it highlights something really important, even in a field like construction that's so hands-on.
Yeah.
Being able to articulate your experience clearly and confidently is so crucial.
Communication skills.
Yes. Those soft skills are essential for moving up in any field.
So it's not just what you know, it's how you communicate what you know.
100%.
So for anyone listening who's maybe feeling fired up about this career path, what's like the one thing they should be doing to stay ahead of the curve? I know the guide mentioned staying updated on industry trends, but that always feels kind of vague to me. Like, what does that actually look like in practice?
It's true. Stay updated can feel like pretty generic advice. But in a field like plastering, which is being so directly impacted by these technological advancements, it's absolutely critical.
Oh.
If I were starting out on this career path today, I'd be all over those new plastering materials we were talking about earlier.
Interesting. Why focus on the materials specifically? What makes them so important?
Well, it's not just a passing trend. These new materials, they're not just a fad. They represent a fundamental shift in how plastering is done. Lighter materials, think about it, less strain on the body, faster application times. They even open up totally new possibilities for design. The plastering professionals who really understand these materials inside and out, they're the ones who are going to be in high demand.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not just about knowing the traditional techniques anymore.
Right.
It's about understanding the science behind the materials.
Exactly.
How this innovation is changing the game.
And that's where that commitment to continuous learning comes in. Whether it's through trade publications or online forums, even just talking to suppliers and manufacturers, being the person who's always seeking out that latest knowledge, that's going to give you a real edge.
Great advice. And speaking of advice, the RoleCatcher guide also had this whole section on building a professional network, which, I feel like that's important in any field.
Oh, absolutely.
But it seems especially crucial in construction.
Networking is key in this industry. Construction is all about relationships. It's about making those connections, building trust with other professionals. Whether it's general contractors, suppliers, even other plastering supervisors, you're all working together.
Makes sense. And RoleCatcher had some good tips on how to do that effectively.
Yeah, they did.
I was impressed with their resources. So we've covered a lot of ground here. What would you say is the most important takeaway for our listeners? For anyone who's intrigued by this career path, what's the one thing they should remember?
I'd say the biggest takeaway is that the role of a plastering supervisor, it's evolving. It's not static. This is a career that demands both traditional craftsmanship and a forward-thinking mindset. You need those hands-on skills, absolutely. But you also need to be adaptable. You need to be tech-savvy. You need to be a strong communicator. It's a multifaceted role.
That's a great way to put it. So if you're someone who enjoys a good challenge, who takes pride in their work and isn't afraid to, get their hands a little dirty, this might just be the career path for you.
It just might be. And who knows? You might even find yourself on the cutting edge of a rapidly evolving industry.
No, that's an exciting thought. All right, that's a wrap on this deep dive into the world of plastering supervisors. Until next time, keep those brains curious and those career goals ambitious.